in my opinion, a little less brutal of a result.
Yeah, most definitely. I expect a close one. In the bottom right-hand side, playing from MKers. It is so.
And spawning in the top left as the blue Protoss player representing Team Liquid, he is Harstem. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good riff. I'm glad we got new riffs for this season. That's honestly, when they asked for our feedback, they're like, so is the casters, how did you guys like the tournament? Is there anything we can do? I was like, look, I really don't care about getting up at 3 in the morning. If you guys have to make it earlier, make it earlier, but we need more opening riff tracks. We need more sound effects. You know, I want to get a whammy from Anchorman in there, maybe some air horns at some point when we get to the finals. This has been a really fun tournament, Cass, and I love doing this. I love casting with you. I'm really excited for today's games.
Yeah, same, Nate. And you know, like whenever I have to praise you, and I have to praise you often, like one of the things that I love about your casting is you make the atmosphere so friendly and so it's so funny from the start, right? Even with the stuff that you were wearing today, like as soon as the cameras open, I'm already laughing, and I know it's gonna be a funny, great day. So looking forward to it as well.
Got an awesome Sunday ahead of us for sure. And we did have that Cybercore start before the Nexus, so Harstem's going to have some options with this build. The probe already making that SCV put the command center in the wrong spot. And I know everybody always says, yeah, you could just lift it and move it, but the probe getting away and the command center not being on spot, it'll piss any Terran player off, Cats. We might pretend like it's not a big deal, but we want to build our stuff in the right spot originally, just like everybody else. We're not that different, you and I.
Yeah, of course it does matter, right? Like if we look at how long it's not a slow animation and extra actions that you have to spend. Granted, not at the most active time in the game, but the animation takes a little bit. It's like half an SCV worth of production. In fact, I'm not sure, seeing as the Marine was popping out and he didn't have to wait for a Reaper, I'm not sure that he should have even dropped the CC where he dropped it, as opposed to just waiting for the Marine and then dropping it on location. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, and then see, stuff like this gets awkward because if he tries to build a reactor, the Adept, it won't be able to block it, but the Hellions may not come out in time to save the command center from being... Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, he runs straight into the proxy. That's unfortunate.
Yeah,
everybody loves
it as well.
Everybody loves that build, right? But not being able to actually do it, that's not going to be good. And there's the move. He has to waste at least 6 or so seconds of his life moving that command center.
Yeah, and I mean, that telegraphs it as well, right? That this was most likely intended to be something like a 4 Hellion drop or something of the likes, given the location of the starport. I mean, you want probably a medevac coming out to pick up the 4 Hellions that he's making now. Or do you feel like it could have been something else?
No, for sure. I mean, that's still one of the most popular builds in Terran versus Protoss right now. The 4 Hellion drop, just because so many Protoss players, especially, open up with lots of Stalkers. And the focus is usually on that early Prism or the early Blink. The parting build, Terrans have gotten a lot more comfortable at dealing with, but it is still very good if you play any sort of greedy opening. So the flexibility is that the Hellions just don't instantly die to the Stalkers, so they can almost always get probe kills, but now he's going to have to do it a lot more slowly. I think this gives way too much time for Harstem to get all of the defenses set up, get his observers in position, and honestly, I would be really surprised if this medevac drop does anything. The biggest mistake Harstem could probably do is try to move his units out, but Soul is actually going to build a second medevac early. He's going to drop the Hellions and I guess the mines at the same time. So maybe this could still work, Cats. It's a bold play. If the observer sees it, it may not be possible still, but multitasking is always going to be hard in the early game with the number of units you have.
Yeah, but the first medevac is so far across already that I don't know that he can wait. Do you think he's gonna wait? I would almost like to see him wait for the second one just to complicate things, because
I think he should.
He's gonna find an opening.
Well, if the Stalkers aren't here, it could still work. So comes down, a couple of the probes already get through. Wow. 6 kills is not bad at all. I don't know that he can get the medevac out of here, so just sack the Hellions. And 13. Oh my God.
Wow.
Honestly, I don't even know that you want to do the mine drop now. Just keep your medevacs alive for the next push, because he has done. This is a disgusting amount of damage.
Yeah. Here's the mine drop, and like you're saying, I don't know if you even do it. I mean, if it lands on anything, it's game over, almost for sure.
Yeah. You're almost giving your opponent a way back into the game if this doesn't work, though.
Yeah.
He has to get at least a few more probes. 2, okay. 2's not bad. If he saves that mine, or at least saves the medevac, I can't complain. But like, if you lose the medevac and both mines, like imagine, put yourself in Harstem's position. You're like, oh crap, I just lost, 17 probes. Okay, well, at least I killed the next thing for free, right? But
yeah,
not getting all of it, that's a little bit tough. That's a little bit tough. And now Soul can kind of do what he likes to do. And I think of Soul as a macro powerhouse player. I don't think he wants to have to pull his workers. And given the amount of economic damage that he did, I don't think he will have to pull his workers. So he can get those double upgrades going. I think he'll be able to get his third base without too much of a problem. It's going to take a little while because, as we see, he's still up 5 SCVs over the probe count. And with mules, that's a lot of money income difference.
Yeah, it's pretty huge. He was also very defensive because, like you pointed out, right, after those 2 attacks, you're losing army and you're hurting economy. That means in the long run, Soul is going to be favored more and more. But in the short term, Harstem could have had an army that maybe could have crossed the map if that Widowmine drop had completely flopped, or if the medevac had also died, or something of the sorts. As it stands, it's a very difficult game for Harstem to recover from.
Yeah. So the biggest things that, we know Protoss has a lot of good options for ways that they can try to poke and prod and kind of deal with this type of situation. Of course, big army control, using Colossi, getting drops in. Those are some of the big ways that you can do it. If you have really good force fields, perhaps on a Colossus playing defensively when the Terran tries to attack, or as charge starts to come in. Warp prisms on this map are never going to be a bad choice. If you can try to keep the Terran player pinned in their own base a little bit, delay the push as much as possible, get a couple of extra shield batteries or whatnot, I think you can do a lot. This move out is a bit of a head scratcher. Stim and combat shields are not yet ready, but that bio army supply is only going to get bigger and bigger. I guess if the tanks are tucked back too far, though, they won't really be able to support if he just pokes from like the north side of that third base.
Yeah, it looks like he's just clearing terrain, making sure that nothing's coming his way, maybe trying to tax some units around those corners and the chokes or something, because he also has a second Colossus coming. So I think Harstem has to play kind of defensive from here on. Yeah, I'm not sure though. What do you think Soul? Oh, he's already adding the ghost.
Yeah, that's just, he's really making sure that he's gonna, I guess instead of risking his advantage by going for a big push super early, he wants to leverage it into just greed. Like, I'm gonna get all the tech I need. I'm gonna give myself every piece of infrastructure that I need to take it to the late game. If he's gonna play like this, I'd love to see him add that second starport soon once he gets that third base fully saturated and starts his fourth. If he wants to go for a fourth, he could still pull workers. That's kind of normal for these situations, but he's bringing out a big contingent of his army towards that third base, crossing through the middle of the map.
Yeah, there's some insights that a fourth might want to be dropped, so maybe he's looking to deny that. This is a pretty small force, and without medevacs, this is the type of mistake that could be costly. There's only 1 medevac, but hey, it doesn't matter too much if your opponent's caught off position. Here are the Zealots and the rest of the army of Harstem. That's gonna push this little attack for now. That was kind of a head scratcher for me as well. Here's the other 2 medevacs. If you have these ones here the entire time, I'm completely okay with it, right? Like, worst case scenario, you just load up.
It's too risky, right? To lose everything like that, As much as we talk about the good position of Soul, as both players approach, a maximum supply, that's going to start to favor the Protoss a little bit more. They get those power units out. Good force fields by Harstem's not going to lose anything for a few Marines and Marauders. Now, there's still a significant army supply advantage for Soul, but this is one of those maps where holding that ramp, right? That's always going to make it a little bit easier for you. I'd love to see him tuck a shield battery a little bit further behind this cannon so he has the overcharge support available.
Yeah, there are 4 Vikings in production and no Ghosts in production. I was going to ask you about this because we did see the Ghost Academy come down, but I've seen games from Soul where he makes a 2 Ghost push into Colossi and then he never again makes Ghosts. This time around, Harstem is making some Archons at least, so there's going to be stuff to EMP. Do you think EMP is just good enough that you just get it anyway, or?
I think so, yeah. I know, for sure. I mean, this is a really interesting direction that he's chosen to go for because he's just saying, I'm not going to rush for it if I don't need it. And while that is a completely fair thing, he sees that there are Archons on the map, so it's not like he isn't going to have to worry about it soon. Oh, if he had gotten that prism, that would have been really nice. The missile turret finished just a second too late, but the Vikings can probably see it on the radar still. Actually, he should see it on the radar still, so if he goes around, maybe split 2 off to catch the wide angle, he could get it, but the army's actually going to go check for it too now.
Yeah, finally 2 ghosts being produced. There's the army complexity of Soul. It's so difficult to control when you also have all kinds of depth in your army, right? Like you have the Liberators, the Ghosts, Marauders, and Marines. They kind of all sit on their own and kind of want to be controlled on their own. So that's going to be interesting to see. So of course,
it is. Yeah. It is a difficult army to control for sure. The Vikings, by the way, missed the Prism. They went on the hunt. They lost the scent. They could not track it down and get the big buck. Not this time, Cats, but he's getting Liberator range. So, and that EMP upgrade, as you were talking about, he's going to have a couple of EMPs available, even though we know that Storm is not a factor in this game as of right now. A Dark Shrine is being added, but those ghosts are really hard to control around those disruptors, though, Cats. I think that could end up being a big factor here if he gets 1 or 2 good Purification Novas. Everything we ever talked about as far as favoring Soul, they go right down the drain.
Yeah, that is a great point, because ghosts cannot stim like the rest of the Terran army can, so they can't run any faster than they're walking. Essentially, they're lazy people for the most part, the ghosts, so they will get caught by disruptor shots much more easily than the rest of it.
Yeah, the Marines and Marauders run. The ghosts, they kind of power walk, you know?
Yeah, they power walk.
They're your suburban dads at 7 in the morning, taking a light jog through the neighborhood, asking everyone how their morning's going. But DTs from that Prism inside the base, getting a couple of SCV kills, but mostly pulling the army's attention away, Cats, as he's going to get onto that southwest 4th base. 2 of the Liberators are going to siege up. He does have a command center kind of buffering for the Planetary, and with 2 Liberators and a full surround on the Planetary Fortress, the Purification Novas are going to come out to get rid of the repair. I think getting rid of the SCVs makes this a lot more easy to deal with, and Soul's just going to go for a big counterattack. All the Marines and Marauders stim to half their hit points, sprinting through the 3rd.
Yeah, they have stimmed a couple of times, I think is what you're alluding to together. They were running fast. And I don't blame Soul for this decision. I mean, Harstem had already capitalized on getting a good positional advantage, and that's so difficult to break into with those disruptors being in the mix, right? Because you usually want to run away from them, not into them. And that's why they're so powerful defensively. But hey,
good army control so far. When I saw that big wave of Zealots warping on the right side, I'm like, oh no, he's about to become a Soul sandwich. But he's still doing a really good job controlling this army, still maintaining a monstrous supply lead, albeit a lot in the medevacs. But if these medevacs can stay alive, that gives him the longevity to keep that piecemeal army together. And in these scrappy situations, we do generally like them for Terran a lot, because that recall cooldown's 130 seconds. There's going to be a significant amount of time before he can do it again. If he can squeeze a big drop out while he goes for this push, anything is possible. And honestly, Cats, you know what? I'm just noticing now. There are 8 Liberators. There are 8 Liberators on the map. So if he can set these up in a good array around his army, there is a tremendous potential here, because you can't attack into 8 Liberators. It's not possible. Oh my God, he didn't move his army!
Oh, no. And yeah, that is huge, and that is the time that you have from those starports emptied from the fact that you're keeping all your medevacs alive this entire time, right? Yes. You can produce those Liberators from them, and here comes the big fight. It's so difficult for Harstem as well, having this base so far away and so segregated from the rest of his base, essentially, that it's going to be extremely difficult to defend. He has to sit at a very difficult position with the rest of his army, and Soul looks like he's going to take a commanding lead here.
Yeah, something happened over at that southwest base as well. The probes were being pulled away. There were some stalkers blowing something up and losing their shields. But I think you make a really good point. He's had such a high medevac count, and he's done such a good job at keeping maintenance on them. He was able to get out a crazy number of Liberators with that range upgrade, and thus game number 1 as well. Really, really solid start for Soul. I cannot believe the proxy starport gets scouted, canceled. He sees that he's opening with Hellions, so he should know 100% that there's going to be a Hellion drop coming. But at the exact moment when we're like, should he wait? Should he wait for the second drop to try to double prong attack him since he knows it's coming? Says no. I'm gonna put all the chips in on that natural expansion, and 17 probe kills. You really like that's like winning the Terran lottery versus Protoss.
Yeah, and it's against a Protoss that had seen it coming, presumably, right? Like, we see the starport and the positioning of it, and the fact that it was canceled right away. It's gonna be now a much later attack, but you have to expect that's exactly what's coming your way, because it's, you know, the most common thing and the only reason to proxy a starport where Soul did. So, and you know, if you're Harstem, I think you also know that Soul is probably just gonna stick to his plan. You know, he's not the type of player that will be super flexible and, you know what, oh, I got scouted, I'll do some wonky stuff that I've never done before, right? He's probably going to stick to the plan and sees it through, and it works out for him great. I love your wristbands, by the way. I hadn't noticed them before.
Oh, thank you. You gotta, hey man, you gotta, it's very much about, I learned that one from Maru and everybody else for the, keeping, when you're gaming on the computer for long periods of time, you gotta have some compression for blood flow. It's very helpful for your ligaments. It's very, very helpful. Don't put your bare wrist on the edge of your desk. That's very bad for you.
All right, I'll have to start wearing wristbands then. We are loading now into the second map, though, Nate. This is going to be a good one. This is Harstem's choice, I presume. It's going to be Eternal Empire. How do you find this this first for Terran?
I love this map. This map's really good. Like, all the defensive things that we could say about Eternal Empire are nice for Protoss, but generally speaking, like the Terrans, the one a little bit more worried about the earlier attacks, I think, outside of like the Mine Drop or the Hellion Drop. So I think this one just kind of lends itself to a long game unless our boy in blue brings in some aggression in the northeast. Team Liquid's Harstem.
In the bottom left, leading 1-0, it is Makers. So
good times. But yeah, just to put a bow on it. Yeah, if you use your mouse hand and you have your wrist up, like if you can do it properly, that's technically the way you're supposed to do it. But sometimes when you get really focused, it's like hard not to like have your hand like completely down on your desk. But that's where the wristband thing comes in, because if you cut off circulation to the bottom end of your palm, that makes stuff like the carpal tunnel and whatnot a lot harder to avoid. So protect yourself, gamers. When you're out on a ladder for hours at a time trying to split bio like your 2016s beyond, you got to make sure your ergonomics are on point. Don't want to end up with Terran hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I always thought you wore the wristbands for the same reason that you wore the headband.
Yeah. No.
No,
I'm not that cool.
Okay.
I'm not that cool. No, I actually, when I was trying to learn how to play the game a long time ago, maybe like 2012, I didn't use the wristband, and I noticed that my hands hurt a lot after playing a ladder for a few hours. Because back then I was like, I pretty much only built Marines and nothing else. And then I was like, man, why do my wrists hurt? Someone's like, well, you're probably putting your hands down on your desk. And then I saw Maru play when I think he was still like 12 years old or something in that year in GSL. And he had the wristbands on. I'm like, this guy seems like he knows what he's doing. So I'm going to follow this guy. And of course it would end up being his shoulder and not his wrist that got him. But he sprayed salt. He put the salt spray by the tower. How do you feel about this? Give me your analysis.
I feel like if he was up 1-0, this would be a great move. Is he salty? Is that what he's trying to say? If we're gonna analyze it,
could be. I mean, Paolo. I mean, the bigger question is: was it too big of a change that was unannounced in this patch by Blizzard, that they made it so your worker starts with the ability to drop 3 sprays at the beginning of the game? It's not just 1 anymore. You can go to your opponent's base and put down 3 salts instead of 1. And I think that if you're playing versus someone who's tiltable, this actually gives you a massive competitive advantage and is almost game breaking.
Yeah, there's also something to be said about the designs of the sprays. You could make a spray that only works in 3s or something of the sort now.
Yeah,
that would be difficult to pull off though.
Well, the way that they changed the menu, so it's like when you click on the spray icon now, it brings you to a menu where you can put the StarCraft Remastered logo. For some reason, everybody has that one enabled. Or your set spray. You can technically use 2 sprays right now. And if I could put like salt and cheese, you know what I mean? Like then I put the cheese spray down, then immediately put 2 salt things over it. Like you're gonna be extra salty about this cheese, or you'll almost be able to communicate in hieroglyphics through StarCraft.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, if you're occupying your opponent's headspace with things like salt and cheese as you are cheesing or not cheesing for that matter, boom, you will be distracted. But yeah, it's good tactics. I like it.
Yeah, I love it. These 2 Hellions, they see the 3rd start. Yeah, if he gets a delay on that, you're really happy. This is about as fast of a 3rd Nexus as Protoss will generally take it. And then losing one of the Hellions also hurts. So I'm interested to see then what Soul is going to do about that. Because like I said, this is about as fast for third as you're going to get. So if you have a 2-base all-in build, this would be when you do it. But he went for the craziest fast third command center of all time as well. He's going to have a third orbital before the Protoss has a third Nexus, which is very irregular in this meta.
So he's got to be pretty happy with this, right? Like maybe you don't need as much production or as much defense on the Terran side because, yeah, he was being even greedier. This is, like you were saying, the fastest Nexus that you could possibly scout as well. It was dropped right on his face. So I normally tend to think of Terran as the least flexible race in terms of what you can do strategically to adapt. But given the time that he has, is there something still that he can do or just be greedy at this point, Soul?
Actually, I think you bring up an excellent point, though. You know, now that I think about it, at least Soul knows it's highly unlikely he has to worry about anything himself. So I think you just power up at this case, right? Because he played the macro game last time, and I mean, he did kill 17 probes. He did kill 17 probes very early, but we'll see. Double Forge, Colossus, or I guess
this is Great City, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is what happened. The two macro players who know how greedy each other like to be. It's like they ran into each other on ladder, and he just looks at Twitch chat. He's like, guys, I'm just gonna do the greedy build, and this is it. Look, he's already moved the third CC out. Oh, you love to see it. You love to see it. If he was up against if you do this versus like the parting build, like you just die, right? You don't have enough units to deal with this to actually take your third and protect everything. And the observer sees that, so he knows. They both know how greedy each other are both being. So, but at the same time, neither of them can really do anything about it. So I'm just like, okay, we're in a game of economic chicken.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they've been doing. I mean, the second gateway I think is being added now for Harstem, and this is nearly 6 minutes in, while he is researching already 1-1 and Zealot speed and thermal lance while making Colossi. That's all the tech in the world on the side of Harstem with a slightly slower economy, whereas Soul does have the slightly faster, I would say, economy relative to expectation, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think on the Terran side, this build is greedier because most Protoss, if you play well, you can defend a lot of things that Terran will try to do about the fast third, which is why the fast third is normal for Protoss. Whereas if you go for the fast third CC and the Protoss does almost any aggressive build, it is extremely difficult to defend and survive. So just because of that alone, I think meta-wise, this is a good spot to be in for Soul. Terran usually can't get away with this type of greed versus Protoss. But at the same time, as you pointed out, like Harstem went as greedy as he could have possibly been with his upgrades and his robo, delaying his gateway production forever because he also knew, hey, I can get away with it. And he's getting the fourth up. He's gonna have his fourth. He's got his fourth base up at 6 minutes now. And
this is like a 60-minute production tab on the side of Harstem. He's getting all the upgrades at once too, and a Templar Archives and a fourth.
It's like those Fast and Furious movies where they're like, each one needs to be more ridiculous than the last. And he's like, okay, well, if you're gonna be this greedy, I'm gonna be even more ridiculously greedy. Now I've got 3 observers everywhere on the map and a fourth base by 7 minutes.
Yeah, I love to see it. And Soul hasn't really taken that next step in greed, right? He never got the super greedy fourth or anything like that. So I expect... Oh, there's a command center now. I was expecting something like a 3-base attack at this point, something to punish that fourth.
Yeah. Well, I think the only thing Soul could do to one-up him would be if he took both corner bases right now. just mega greed, mega. Is he gonna force this one in? Oh no.
Blockers for imputation. Yeah, difficult to know if Blink is done as well. It could be done. It's charge instead, which is gonna punish this side of the aggression instead. And Harstem will, safely secure his fourth. By the looks of it, this mines is scary.
Yeah, having that armory nice and quick too is really, really helpful because obviously he went for fast upgrades, but he's getting ship weapons and, level 2 ship weapons. You can 2-shot most Protoss units, the gateway units at least. That's going to be really big. But also those Widow Mines, right? Anywhere that he doesn't have detection, the Widow Mines are going to be even more impactful, though Harstem has built plenty of observers and he's got cannons, I think, in all of his bases. So both players very, very, very patient with the setups in this game. Neither of them are in a rush to fight, it would seem.
Yeah, air weapon upgrades as well on the side of Soul. Now the first Viking being produced. How important is this, you think? Is that or is he just projecting onto the later stages of this game?
I think you definitely need the Vikings because with the number of zealots that are on the map right now, like he's bolstering a very big meat shield for the Colossi that I don't think the bio will be able to dive on them very effectively unless he gets something like a 40 supply lead, which He's on pace, right? He's 106 to 84. He does have a lot of Marines and Marauders, but he's basically 1 or 2 force fields away from his whole army being surrounded by Zealots and outside the range of Colossi. That Widow Mine did kill the Observer over here on the left side, so that's it's not the worst, even though he was able to kill the mines.
Yeah, that's such an interesting balance. Something that, you know, like, as soon as I started playing Protoss and I said I'm gonna go Colossus, I built like 8 in that game, right?
Yeah.
and then once my army below them fall, they all fall so quickly. And then I started realizing, hey, maybe it's better to make just 4 or 3 and just have a lot of chunk in the under them, right? Just which is exactly what you're alluding to. It's very difficult to get to them that way.
Oh, this is an extremely meaty Protoss army, right? It's mostly Stalker Zealot with a couple of Colossi in the back. And I actually don't think he can attack into this base right now. He's throwing his Zealot flank on the left, but those EMPs were perfect.
Yeah, huge EMP hits everything. Nice Zealot Rambites, but yeah, runs a lot of that army into the Planetary Fortress. It's not meaty enough for that, and it's an army that clumps as well. Okay, this is much better, a much better angle. And he could actually siege with Colossi from this high ground if he wanted.
I'd like that. Yeah, he should take the high ground, just cut off the mining on that base. Like, the Planetary anchors this. I think that head-to-head, I think the Protoss army could win, but with the Planetary there, then I feel a little bit less likely, you know?
Exactly. Yeah, so I would very much like the high ground being used. We saw... well, we see Terran players are often using this high ground. Hero Marine used it to great degrees just yesterday. But with the Colossi, that could be something that he does. Now, there's 2 sensor towers in position. I hate it when Terrans put down sensor towers. I don't know what to do anymore. It's so difficult to attack into it.
Yeah, it really gives you like a, I don't know, it's almost like a pervy feeling where you're like, I'm just being watched. Like, how do I do anything without my opponent just knowing?
They just know, and then they can scan. Of course, this is all expenses on the Terran side, right? So it's not like it feels amazing for Terran to drop those and to scan your army.
But it makes it a lot easier for the Terran to not waste scans, though, right? Because you just see on the radar, and you're like, okay, well, if I need to scan, I can, but I know where they are generally.
Oh, here we go.
He goes for the high ground.
Yeah, but now there's Liberators out. Vikings also available in greater numbers. And he doesn't really get to siege it, even though he still could. He does have that thermal lance. So being a little bit hesitant, but this is a huge Zealot attack. Right on time with the supply drops or lifts.
Yeah, that's brutal. That's a tremendous amount of Zealots he's pushing into that base. And he's using this opportunity to try and poke a little bit at the 4th, but the Liberators are still kind of holding it down. Good wall at the natural. Zealots might be able to get through it, but he's trying to buy some time.
Yeah, those Zealots were just running behind each other. They still are. But yeah, Soul with great positional. Wow, Harstem's gonna go for the break here. I did not expect this. This is nuts. What?
That's when we get the soundboard. We go, Nani? What's going on over here?
Yeah, I mean, it's just stalkers to output damage, right? There's nothing
channeling his inner patience, I suppose. Well, you know what? He baited him into moving the army out after that, so he does kill the base anyway. Does he have enough to defend this, though? 4 cannons and a battery? Maybe if he overcharges it?
Maybe if he overcharges it.
No, okay. Oh, he could get the Nexus on the left, at least. Does he even see it? Does he know? There's a Nexus to the left, to the left.
Yeah, oh, man. It is so funny that triggered Soul to move out. This is kind of dangerous. From Soul, I think
he's nuking him.
On top of that.
Both Colossi are there. He's nuking that Nexus. I didn't even realize he got a nuke. Well, that's not going to kill too much. Maybe the pylons? Oh, the Colossus walked back into it. Nice.
Yeah, he was already weak, and this is a big attack move. Okay, this is a very good engagement, at least on the back onto those Liberators. And still a lot of disruptors are left over for Harstem, who did take down that Planetary Fortress Archon in the Rich Vespin Geyser base for Soul as well. So this is actually not looking too bad at all.
I see the Marines walking past the disruptor on the left. And oh my goodness, what a messy game this turned into. Those DTs were such a pain, and he's killed most of the workers too. There's nothing really mining at the 3rd base. He has a couple of extra SCVs in his main and natural he could transfer, but more DTs with the Zealots at that 4th. Again, SCVs dying in droves. 44 workers to 85 for Harstem.
Yeah, I wonder if Harstem's gonna try. Oh, there's so many Liberators here now. I thought maybe he can try to do something before that turns into a PF. This is a big army, and he has a big army supply lead as well. Harstem, I don't think he can engage onto Liberators now with the ballistics.
And +2. The Liberators did not have +2 for that last fight, so that changes the dynamic from 3-shotting the Stalkers to 2, which is
really
massive. It's massive upgrade to get +2 ship weapons when you're fighting, because it makes it impossible for the even mass Stalkers to blink into those Liberators. He's using the Disruptors to zone him out of his own base.
Yeah, that was huge. And yeah, earlier I was asking, why is he getting the ship weapons? Because he didn't have a single ship or a single air unit, right? Like, he was making 1 Viking and that was it. But now with the Liberators getting the +2 onto these Stalkers, everything looks like a master plan coming to life from the side of Soul. Harstem will be forced to recall, but that was a really nice move from him, who is maxed and now has map control. I'm not sure how this game got to this state, but here we are.
Yeah, he's going to kill another command center. At this point, Harstem doesn't really need to kill Soul. He can just kind of bounce around these expansions. He has way too many Stalkers for Soul's army to be able to move out without having Liberators pre-sieged everywhere. And like, I honestly think if he just walks to the right, he could probably just blink on that planetary, kill the Liberator, and then just peace out. He doesn't need to take a direct engagement. He has so much income. He has so many more bases than Soul. Like, Soul is, he's already being bled dry. No mining in the natural, no mining in the main base, really. The third only has like 4 mineral patches. So he has to float the command center over and basically pray that he gets enough time to set up.
Yeah, I think it all comes down to when Harstem blunders onto a PF of Soul, forcing Soul to attack across the map and blundering himself, I suppose. I feel like if Soul just defended, yeah, I guess that was a huge bait.
He's like, I'm gonna throw away 20 supplies so that you walk into my army so I can base trade you. Like, it was the sickest, you know. It's like the pool shark, right? Yeah. He makes a couple bad shots. He's like, oh man, I really feel like I'm getting the hang of this, though. You want to put 20 on it? And he's like, Soul's like, oh, sure, yeah, let's do it. Here's the keys to my car.
Oh, man. Is that from a movie or something? Because I've heard reference to this, no.
Apollo and I found a great American bar in LA when he was living out there, and I was the bad pool player and he was the good pool player, and you know, Apollo bought me many drinks. He's a good man, But that's it for this game. GG. That was perfect. That was like, Harstem was just like, if I do the most donkey thing right now, I could get him to try and attack across the map into all those cannons and shield batteries. That was very, very, very well done. I think we're going to go to a quick break before we jump into game number 3 for this series. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the DreamHack Masters Fall. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the DreamHack Masters StarCraft 2 Fall. I'm Nathanius, joined by Cats, and we are about to go to Game 3 of what's been a hell of a series thus far, huh?
Yeah, hell is a pretty good word for it. If you are either of these players, I think, with huge blunders last game, but hell in itself is gonna be manifested on Submarine of all maps, Nate. We only see it 2 times, and it was yesterday.
There's a reason. There's a reason we don't see it.
All right. So from a Terran perspective, do you like this map against Protoss, or?
Oh no, I don't like this. You know, this map I think would have fit in just fine in Wings of Liberty, maybe. But I personally have no love for Submarine. This is one that should have stayed in the 70s or 80s, whenever that song was made.
I mean, the Beatles, and I think most Beatles fans don't have much love for Ringo songs in general, so maybe the map is in that sense aptly named.
There you go.
Yellow, of course, as a Submarine, but I have a bias towards small and crazy maps, so Submarine is my jam, and we are loading into it. Here we are in the yellow Submarine as the yellow Protoss player, actually blue, but the next side are always yellow-ish, gold, I guess. Lips of gold, it's Harstem.
Noise.
Noise.
And his opponent in the bottom right, the red Terran player. He is Maker's Soul. Do you get a lot of good, funky games on this, Cats, as a Zerg, though? On this small map?
Yes, I want to say yes.
You proxy a lot on this map, huh? Tell me about your dirty Submarine fantasies while we're at it.
I think it's just that so many units gain value, like Queens gain value because you can actually walk them across, and you know, like early pools kind of gain a little bit of value, and that's always fun to get the game started early, and Roaches and Ravagers are more useful. In that same sense, I wouldn't have minded, for example, oh, very cute, actually.
Wow.
That SCV as well. What do you make of this, Nate?
Oh, this is like some Flash just started playing StarCraft 2 stuff over here. I mean, you know, this actually I think ends up being pretty bad for him because he didn't scout that Harstem actually went straight for 2 gas. So while it's not uncommon anymore to play macro out of Cybernetics core before Nexus, he was not. I don't think he was ever planning on taking a quick Nexus in this game with the fast second gas, because if he wanted to have that Nexus done, I do believe he could have gotten it earlier. And I think what Soul has interpreted from this opening until he goes into the main, it probably is that he's like, oh yeah, well, he's just going to do maybe the fast adept. Like he probably went Cybercore first. That's why I was able to get this block so easily. But when he sees that second gas and 1 pylon, well, baby, there's really only one thing it can be, and that's a proxy. It's going to be a Stargate right outside the main base. And these types of builds, very difficult, very tricky. Look, he just started a reactor, so all he has is a Reaper to try and go across the map. And yes, he can wall off, but even his ability to get Marines out is going to be pretty heavily delayed. He's got a shield battery at home in case the Reaper goes all the way across. And he actually didn't finish the engineering bay, which I know it's like, oh yeah, you would never want to finish that type of eBay. But if you knew what was happening in this game, you might consider it, because he's going to see the Stargate with the Reaper. That is a nice scout. But that next pylon he wants to queue up makes me think it's going to be Void Rays. And oh, there it is, Void Rays. So.
Why would you want to finish the eBay? Just for the armor?
You can build a missile turret at this point, honestly.
Oh,
because he's about to have Void Rays. He's about to have Void Rays in his face.
Right. Yeah, actually, I talked about with Soul about the eBay versus bunker, and he was telling me the bunker's usually better. Just
he went back and finished it.
Yeah, he
went back and finished
just
the eBay. Hell yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very
hell
smart.
yeah. Great.
Unfortunately, the Adept's still in range.
Oh, I love this. Is it Void Rays? Oh, it's Void Rays. I love this. I would love to see this with a Nexus as well, Nate. He doesn't have a Nexus. He could add a Nexus.
Want to build a Nexus? What the hell is wrong with you?
Why? Look at the position. It's perfect for it, right? Like he's going to be speaking with Void Rays.
Okay, Cats, when you describe this series as hell, you are correct. This right here, this is the Terran. I'm just so glad we get to see so many powerful usage of mid-game Void Rays, you know? This is my favorite stage. Get this mid-game Void Ray usage that really just adds to the amount of things you can do to kill somebody in the first 4 minutes of a game. Really warms my heart. That's all I have to say about that. Oh,
yeah, I mean...
Good luck getting Vikings.
It is what it is. It's going to be extremely difficult, especially because of the of the start that Soul had to deal with here, right? And it's looking pretty good for a 2-1 Harstem at the moment. Soul was very greedy with that command center, basically playing the eco game, anticipating that, he's done.
What on earth can he possibly do? He can't build a starport. He can't mine. He doesn't actually have enough minerals to even start another turret. He tries to start a tech lab and immediately gets killed. What are you gonna do? And the Void Rays move so fast too. If he needs to get him away now, it's pretty easy. Kills the mine before it bros, kills all the Marines. Yeah, this is over. GG, baby.
GG. I mean, I don't know if that was adaptation from Harstem. He already was sending the probe out, and Soul spotted that probe with the